3, 2, 1. Hola, mi amigos. ¿Qué pasó, YouTube? Mi amo es Nixon y hoy tengo cómo hacer la música de Anuel AA. I got you, YouTube. I know you thought I knew how to. You thought I was gonna do this whole video in Spanish, didn't you? Nah, I'm playing with y'all today. Yo, it's your boy Nixie coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial today on the channel. Let's not waste no time. Today, I have a really dope artist I love. He's one of the biggest artists in the game, one of the biggest artists in the world. I wanted to do a vocal tutorial for him today. Anuel AA. Let's go. Vamos.
Verano sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Verano sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Verano sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Verano sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Venero sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto.
Okay, so if you guys like this tutorial here today, I'm switching it up a little bit. I love doing these Spanish artists. I also did Eladio Carrion. I did a video template of him as well. You can check that out in the store. If you guys like this Anuel AA, you want to figure out how to get those mainstream, the Billboard pop charting type of vocals, then we have that here today, but it's still sounding very auto-tuned, very melodic. So let's look at this really quickly. I'm gonna actually mute what it sounds like with and without the template.
Venero sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Venero sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Venero sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Venero sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto.
Okay, so you guys know that I am from South Florida. You know, I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Pompano Beach. Really, I was born in Fort Lauderdale, but I'm in Pompano right now. So pretty much, you know, I grew up with a lot of Spanish people is what I'm trying to say. So I do know how to say the words in Spanish. I don't really know how to speak Spanish though, but I grew up with a lot of, you know, Spanish, you know, friends. I used to listen to Ramon Ayala. I used to listen to Vicente Fernandez. Like I grew up listening to Spanish music. So that's why I actually kind of like Spanish music. That's how I know how to do a lot of this stuff. So yeah, let's look at the first thing I like to do with Anuel AA a vocal like that. I'm trying to make it really sound very clean and very mainstream and pop. So usually when it's a situation like that, it's about how am I gonna manage the low end of the vocal? Because of course I know that with the you know reggaeton type of music, the boom, 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 it's all about the groove, it's all about the weight of the you know the instruments, and I don't want his vocal to feel skinny and you know scary and really timid and oh my god, I don't want it to feel very small and frail compared to the big reggaeton, you know, boom 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 boom, you know, those big reggaeton drums, those percussions. So of course I'm always managing the low end, and after that what I did is I just kind of did like a little high shelf boost as well as a little bell right here, because I'm looking to like kind of figure out where it's a little bit of that character in his vocal. That's the thing about mixing in a different language. You know, the words have like a different type of way that they slide into the music versus where I feel like a language like German is very direct and has a lot of consonants. I like Spanish because it's a very melodic flowing type of language. So my main goal with an Anuel vocal is to make it clean and very smooth. So let's look at this.
Venero sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Venero sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como agosto. Venero sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría.
So really just starting to go in there and starting to, you know, take a broom and just clean up all the dust on the vocal that I don't want any of that little graininess, nasty stuff. I want my vocal to be like a clean floor by the time I do my first EQ. Then I use something like the Abbey Road RS124. This is a analog modeled tube compressor. Actually, I think it's kind of like coming as well inspiration from a modified Altec. You know, usually back in the days when you had a studio like Abbey Road, they had all their own custom equipment. It's not like nowadays how everybody's got the same plugins and all that stuff like that. So every studio had its own unique piece of gear. It had its own unique piece of candy inside of its store. And this was a piece of candy, that Abbey Road RS-124. It has a very rich tube type of sound that I want with the Anuel vocal. I want his vocal to be very smooth, but still very warm and very intimate, because that's what his lyrics are about, love and intimacy. And he's losing his head. He don't know what to do. You know what I mean? So I use the cutter type because I feel like that gives me a little bit of a brighter sense. So I'm making the vocal brighter using saturation.
Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría como joto. Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría como joto. Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté.
Not only do you also hear that you feel like there's a little bit of the vocals coming forward. Now it feels like the vocals, I told the vocals, no, vienes aquí. You feel me? That's what I'm using with this compressor. I'm telling the vocals to come up to me a little bit closer. You feel me? And I use the sidechain filter, which the original hardware unit didn't include, but it's good because with a sidechain filter, it's still compressing the whole signal. It's just not looking at the bottom. You feel me? It's not looking at the booty. It's not staring at the butt of the vocal pretty much. So that's what the sidechain filter is doing. Don't look at the bottom, look at the mid-range, look at the top end. Okay, so that just allows for cleaner, more responsive compression. A compressor like this is kind of slow, so that's important to know. After that, we have a de-esser. Of course, I'm doing a high shelf boost into my de-esser, and I'm really just starting to shape my high end.
Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría como joto. Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría como joto.
So you see, like specifically, this de-esser is only working on the really, 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 really sharp parts of the vocals. So it's kind of like if I went to a barber and I said, okay, I don't want you to cut the top, just cut the sides. The de-esser is only compressing a certain part of the S's. You pay attention. There's other S's after this that are not even being touched. It's only that very, very first S that's sticking out.
Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría como joto.
There's still S's after that that's not even being, like de-essed at all. So that's another way to, approach your de-essing. Listen to, okay, like, do I want my de-esser to work all the time, or do I want my de-esser to be like one of my distant cousins that only comes around once in a while in my life? You feel me? So after that, we have the C4, and of course, everybody knows that I love using the pop vocal preset on C4. This is a great preset that really, first of all, it kind of just does a little bit of a scoop inside of the mid-range. You feel me? So I'm taking a spoon, essentially. I'm taking a spoon like I'm cooking. I'm drinking a soup. The vocal's like a soup. I'm taking a spoon and I'm scooping out a little bit of soup before I put it into my mouth. You feel me? Like that, like comida. You feel me? And yeah, just pay attention. It's scooping up the mid-range. It's making it sound clean. Feel me?
Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría como joto. Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría como joto. Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría.
And I still like the words like tuta fria. I want my transits to move a little bit. So I started to mess around with the release times a little bit. So if I was to make the release time slower, it would clamp the consonants, it wouldn't move. It depends. The release time on the multiband. Do you want it to move? Do you want it to extend forward? Do you want the spit? Like if you talk to somebody and they're spitting, do you want the spit to come forward, or do you want the spit to just stay right where it's at and just land on their shirt? So think about it like that. Listen to how, because my release time is a little bit fast, you heard like when he says that word, it kind of like extends, kind of moves a little bit. You feel me?
Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría.
At the santi.
Venere son ti, hoy yo se levanté, tú estás fría como joto.
Okay, so a quicker release time lets you hear the transitions in between the words. After that, we have something like a CLA 76. I'm using the CLA 76 not as a compressor. I turned the compressor off. Oh my God, what? I thought it was a compressor. You could only use it as a compressor. No, that's bullshit. Let me tell you, you can also use a compressor as a color box. You know, if you want a little bit of bell peppers, a little bit of oregano, a little bit of parsley, a little bit of thyme, rosemary, and ginger, all that stuff. This is seasoning. You feel me? I'm only using this to make the vocal just brighter. That's it, and a little bit more blowed up.
Venere son ti, hoy yo salavanti, tú estás fría como joto. Veneno sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como joto. Veneno sin ti, hoy es San Valentín.
So you see how when I compare it to the original Anuel vocal, it sounds a lot closer to it, right? There's this brightness that's not harsh, and that's the way you can get that brightness that's not harsh is using something like a compressor. So you have all the tools that you need to be successful in music. Stop making excuses. You have the same tools that these professional engineers have. This is a great time to make music, so don't make no excuses. Stop complaining, it's the equipment, I don't have that same plugin, I need to go spend $500 and $700 on that plugin. No, don't do that. That's bullshit. Don't listen to these YouTubers. You have all the tools that you need. Get to making music. Love making music. Love every second of it, and it will sound just as good as your artist that you like. You know what I mean? So after that, we have the SSLE channel. I love this one because it's very clean. Of course, I'm just adjusting that low end, the booty. You feel me? Now it's kind of like if you know the vocal said, okay, my ass is flat, so now I got to go to the gym, you know, and get it shaped up. You feel me? So that's kind of how I see it. Like I'm shaping the bottom, I'm shaping the booty of the vocal, the low end specifically, you know, and of course a little bit of filtering, a little bit of compression, but my ratio is low, so it lets, you know, with a lower ratio, it lets you affect the whole signal. You get to see the bigger picture, you know, kind of using something like a lower ratio is like a wide angle lens when it comes to how much of the vocal is it going to affect. You know, it's capturing the whole landscape. A bigger ratio, like 6, 7, 8 ratio, where it will be a little bit more isolated. It's more like a selfie, where it's working mostly on the peak energy, the words that are peaking, you know, the signals that have more energy, you know, a little bit more peaking. Usually the signals that have more peak energy are usually like the consonants because they have more high mid energy. Okay, so yeah, let's look at that.
Veneno sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como joto. Veneno sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como joto. Veneno sin ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como joto.
So something just really like basic, not doing too much. And then after that, I bring in a little bit of the RVox. And of course, I like to use the RVox for the gate. It tightens up the vocal. It makes it feel a little bit more biggie, you know, a little bit more bigger. How can I say, no me gusta cuando la música es poquito. You feel me? Okay, I know how to speak that Spanish too. Don't play with me, bruh.
Veneno son ti, hoy yo salavantín, tú estás fría como joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salavantín, tú estás.
You feel me? A little bit more power, a little bit more bigger. You feel me? So yeah, after that, we're using something like the fresh air just to give it a little bit more clarity, a little bit more a Mr. Clean, squeaky type of effect, Fabuloso, Pine Saw type of effect to the vocal, like just a little bit sparkly, a little bit of wax.
Veneno son ti, hoy es San Valentín, tú estás fría como joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salavantín, tú estás fría como joto.
All right, then after that, I use something like a Kramer tape as my slap delay, and I feel like it's kind of a little bit better when it comes to Spanish music to use like a slap delay at a very low volume, because like Spanish is a little bit different from English, but I like how, you know, Spanish sounds like in music because it's like the way the words are melodic and it's sliding a little bit of that low level slap just kind of really helps give it a little bit of gloss. It's like if you had a door that was a little bit rough and every time you open the door, it's squeaking and shit like that. So you take a little bit of oil and you pour it in between the door. Now the door is a little bit more smoother. So that's kind of how I see it.
Veneno son ti, hoy yo salavantín, tú estás fría como joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salavantín, tú estás fría como joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salavantín.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit of baby oil I'm applying to the vocal just to help grease it up, make it a little bit more smoother, a little bit more relaxed. After that, we have my reverb, just a little REQ. Also, because of the me understanding how Spanish is, when he says "santi," like all of those words, I don't want them to trigger the reverb too much. So before it even hits the reverb, I like how my consonants are sounding like on the lead vocal, but when it comes to my reverb, I don't want that like, you know how Spanish is. Sometimes people roll R's. I don't want that to make my reverb work too hard. So I did a high mid dip before it even touched the reverb. You feel me? So
Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como.
So yeah, that little EQ move just makes the reverb sound a lot smoother. Okay, after that we have a Manny reverb. I'm using the space and I'm using it large. I'm using just a little bit of compression to tighten up the reverb. I want his reverb to feel big, like how Spanish music, like the reverb always feels big, but not out of control. You know, it's like a pit bull. You know, it's a big ass dog, but I'm gonna put it on a leash so it's not all over the place. And then after that, we have a doubler stomp. I like the doubler stomp because it's bringing a little bit more grit, a little bit more nastiness. You know, at this point in time, the doubler stomp is in parallel. My lead vocal is already so squeaky clean, so I just wanted to use something dirty to give it a little bit of contrast. And then, of course, I use the SSLE channel on parallel as my parallel compressor. Another great way to use a plugin that you already have to give a little bit of presence to your vocal. Atención, atención, soy aquí ahora. That's what the parallel compressor is pretty much doing for my vocal, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of what it's doing. It's just letting it be known that, hey, it's kind of like this parallel compressor is a bully. It walks into the vocal and it's like, yo, I'm in this bitch, I'm in this song, I'm here, I have a place in here. So let's listen to it.
Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo San Valentín, tú estás fría como Joto.
So that's the thing that people in the mainstream do. They might cut off a lot of lows and like cut off a lot of mid-range inside of their vocals, so the vocal sounds really clean, but then they'll use the parallel compressor to add the body back rather than to use something like an EQ to add back in the body. So that's a way that you can approach this music shit, you know? And of course we have the ad-libs. Oh my God, I had so much fun doing these ad-libs. These ad-libs are oh my God, these ad-libs are fire.
Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto.
So yeah, those are pretty much like the standard pop Spanish like type of ad-libs, you know, just like really like melodic type of oh. And yeah, of course, you know, I used a lot of the brightness. I did not go for a radio effect because I kind of didn't want that. I noticed that in pop music, they don't do radio effects all the time, maybe here and there at a certain time, but usually the ad-libs are really clean. So I didn't roll off too much of the high end. I was mainly focusing on the low end, getting that cleaned up and maybe doing like a little transient boost because there's a lot of stuff going on in the song, like the big ass percussions, the whole rhythm. You also have the big reverb on the lead vocal. And at that point, I want my ad-libs to cut through. I boosted a little bit of that high mid frequency. Then we have something like another RVox, you know, using EQ to give me presence, then using compression to give me presence, different ways to do the same thing. Using the compression, using the gate. And after that, at that point, I was bringing in the SSLE. Pay attention, I'm still not being too crazy with my low pass filter. I did like a high shelf because I wanted to add a little bit of air to my ad-libs.
Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto. Veneno son ti, hoy yo salgo ti, tú estás fría como Joto.
Ooh, those ad-libs are so fire. And then after that, we have we had a flanger. We had a flanger too. Flanger. So we had a little flanger. I think I was pushing the stereo a little bit more because it kind of washes away the ad libs. It pushes it back. That was kind of like the effect that I was using. The rate was kind of high too, so it's kind of like he's hitting along no porque, but the rate of the flanger is making the whole signal wobble around like this, you know. So it's kind of like two children that are both brothers. See, and pretty much one of the brothers is calm and relaxed. He's sitting down there, but then the other brother is like really jittery and all over the place. So that's kind of what I'm doing. You know what I mean? To the ear, I'm giving them two brothers. So now they see the whole family of the ad libs together, how they working together. You feel me? Like the ad lib is long, okay, porque, but the rate of the flanger is fast. You feel me? So it's moving a lot.
Veneno son ti, hoy yo solo ti, tú estás fría como otro.
And yeah, after that, we had a Manny reverb again, kind of gluing my ad libs together with my lead vocal by using the same reverb but with different settings, rolling off a little bit of the lows. I don't want to reverberate my lows, just using a hall, you know, just using a nice little hall. And oh yeah, the flanger, I was using the flanger 100%, you know, kind of having like a flanger moving, but then I'm using a phaser right here. So I'm just modulating the shit out of the ad libs, and that's what I'm talking about. The ad libs are, boy, the ad libs are stagnant, but then the effects are like wobbling a lot. You see me? So I'm using a flanger, a phaser. These things make stuff wobble. They make them move around. They make them wiggle. That's if you can make your vocals, your music wiggle a little bit, that's gonna make people want to wiggle. That's gonna make the women want to wiggle because the music is already telling them to do that, and their body has to react to it. Okay, so yeah, that's what we have. And after that, I used a Kramer tape again, and I used it on the reverb just to lo-fi the reverb up. I don't want the reverb to be too bright because my lead vocal was already so bright. So that's pretty much the end of the video that I have here today. Another SSLE parallel compression again, you know, nothing crazy to see here, but that's the end of the video that I have here for today. If you guys like this template, you can check it out in the pin link down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out our Patreon. So appreciate you now, my YouTube family, if you learned a lot. All right, peace.